Welcome back to an all-new episode of One-on-One with Courtney Starks, and I thank you all for joining me and being here. Today, I am filled with so much excitement to have this king on the other side of the screen. He is a Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, a motivational speaker, a host, an author. This king right here goes by the name of Keith L. Brown, also known as Mr. Impossible. King, how are you, brother?
First of all, let me say GOODJOB. Good job, good job. I have to say good job to this young man of excellence who I call one of my industry nephews. His name is Courtney. The C is for committed. The O is for optimistic. The U is for understanding. The R is for resilient. The T is for trailblazer. The N is for noble. The E is for empowered. And the Y is for yes. Yes, he was raised by his grandmother after the unfortunate passing of his mother. Yes, he's overcome kidney failure. And now he uses his kidneys and his heart to stand into the gap for others. Yes, he is an award-winning innovator. And so today, I'm delighted, ignited, and excited to be one-on-one with my industry nephew, Keith L. Brown, Mr. Impossible here. Let's get it.
You know what? We're not going to do this. You're not going to do this to me. You're not going to start me up right now. See, you about to make me run. You ain't got to get me the running in here today. But yeah. I'm truly excited to have you. I know we've spoken virtually for a while, so I'm honored to have this moment and to share this moment with you. And the world seems to know Mr. Impossible, and I'm now lucky to have him on the show. So, Keith, let's just tell the world, before we kind of dive in some things, we got a lot to talk about today. Tell the world a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Absolutely. I was fortunate to be born in Savannah, Georgia, and raised in Jamaica, Queens, New York, right across the street from Brooklyn, New York. You know it. New York, hey, Brooklyn stand up, Queens stand up. And so I'm a professional speaker, coach, trainer, author, also a legislative consultant. Have a lovely wife, Dr. Wakia Brown, who is a leader in a area metro school district. Also, my son, Keon J. Brown, who works in government affairs. We are all graduates of the Savannah State University, HBCU love. And listen, I am just one who has the nerve to serve. That's one of my global mottos, is have the nerve to serve. So I'm a servant leader, work in the entertainment industry. At the end of the day, I'm what they call a motivational laxative because I make you move.
Come on.
The motivational laxative because I make you move.
I make you move. Let's kind of go back just a little bit to young Keith, right? I was watching something or reading somewhere where you stated that when you were younger, they placed you in special ed because you talk too much. But I truly believe that God works things out for your good. All of it. All of the things. Not some, not part, not half. All. So let's talk about growing up in this educational system and how did it work itself out for you?
Absolutely. So I was labeled special ed most of my life. I can recall being in a class of 35 and being removed and placed in a class of 5. And I knew I was small and black and different. Like many young black males, I was systematically labeled and mislabeled. I was hyper. I was very talkative. I wanted to give all the answers. And unfortunately, as young black males growing up in America, if you're too energetic, if you're too hyper, if you talk too much, you're not labeled creative, you're labeled problematic. And so I was one of those who was labeled problematic, but glory be to the God you just spoke of, who transformed me from special ed to specialty speaker, from at risk to taking risks, from being labeled a potential menace to society to stand amongst men and women who now ace society. And so with that being said, those were obstacles I had to overcome. And you know what's so funny? I remember several of my teachers saying, Keith L. Brown, you talk too much. Now I get paid to talk. So God flipped it. as you said, good nephew, God flipped it just as he flipped a lot in your life.
Come on. So when you think about these titles, right, that you've now worked so hard to achieve, where did you feel like you needed to be in your life to get there, right? A lot of us have these callings and these gifts, but we don't prepare ourselves for them. We're not ready we're not ready for them when God places them on us. So where did you have to go? What did you have to dig up? What did you have to go through to be able to step into your purpose?
I love that. I love that question because it speaks to the heart of who I am. It speaks to the heart of who I am. I've always had to tap into my inner gifts. And I always tell individuals, every one of us is a gift. We're a gift. But here's the problem, Courtney. We're a gift, but so many of us focus on the wrapping paper.
Come on.
And the wrapping paper are the materialistic items. The wrapping paper always deal with us validating ourselves through the external and not the internal. And so here we are focusing on the wrapping paper, the external, not realizing that the wrapping paper looks good. But until you remove the wrapping paper, until you take the top off the box and go deep inside, you will never get the gift. And so I had to go deep inside with my natural ability of being a speaker, my natural ability of connecting with people, inspiring and empowering others. Even at a young age, I was doing that. Even through secondary school and college and my early career before I stepped out as a professional speaker, I had to always tap into what was on the inside, because guess what? The outfits may have made me feel good for the moment, but that which was on the inside changes lives. That which is external can make you successful, but that which is internal will make you significant. And so I had to then focus on that which made me significant. And that meant training. That meant that training, doing that research, getting training in the areas that I would grow in and that would take me across the world today. But not just the training, the gift that God placed in me. That's innate. I want to tell all of your purposeful listeners today, each of you has a gift. And until you tap on the inside, you will not be fulfilled. There are two great days in your life: when you were born and when you discover why you were born. And when you discover why you were born, that's called purpose. And when you live your purpose with purpose, on purpose, you will be fulfilled. And so that's what I had to do. I had to tap in to that which would make me significant, the gift on the inside. And so that has helped me to now live and do that internationally and nationally.
I love that you mentioned this wrapping paper, right? And it happens to a lot of us, right? Where we become wrapping paper, and what's inside of us is hollow. It's empty. There's no substance, right? And you mentioned having to dig in deep to be able to empower other people, to leave an impact on other people. But how does oneself, in the midst of empowering and impacting other people, do it for yourself? A lot of times we pour, right? We pour, and then our cups are empty because we don't leave room for ourselves. So how do you, Keith, be able to navigate in that space so that way you don't lose momentum?
I love that. Well, first of all, I'm very intentional about motivating myself, about inspiring myself, about empowering myself. As a matter of fact, when I wake up in the morning and I thank God for life, this is a basic ask for all of your listeners. When your feet hit the floor and you stand up, you need to start clapping. And people ask me why. I said, well, you need to start clapping because it might be the only standing ovation you receive all day. If you can jump out of bed, okay, and stand to the floor and be intentional, it's going to take some time. It's going to take time to build this. But if you can start clapping every morning, understanding it may be the only standing ovation you receive all day, now you jumpstart your day as the catalyst to validate yourself. So now you're less disappointed if those close to you don't validate you. You're less disappointed if coworkers don't validate you, or team members. You're less disappointed if society doesn't validate you, because you're intentional about validating yourself. And it's not being arrogant, it's being confident. It's not being conceited, it's being convinced. It's giving you what you deserve. A lot of times, especially in the African-American community, We have a problem with edifying ourselves.
Yes.
We have a problem with edifying each other. But Courtney, here's the deal. I'm going to edify myself. I'm going to edify you, not deify. To deify is to place above God, but to edify is to build. So I'm very intentional about understanding that before I can be Superman to others, I have to go in my own metaphorical phone booth, my own literal phone booth, and I have to now empower myself. And so I'm very intentional about that. The second thing I want to say is this. You have to be intentional about surrounding yourself with people who are going to uplift you, who are not intimidated by your gift, yes. Okay? Who want to genuinely see you win and you want to genuinely see them win. Listen, nephew, this is what I tell people. If you're on fire for other people's good news and they're only lukewarm when it comes to yours, those are not the people you need to be around.
At all.
So, yeah, I'm intentional about who I surround myself with. So that's important that you, number one, that you're intentional about finding a way to build yourself, to edify yourself, to validate yourself. And then number two, surround yourself with people who positively affect your life and stay away from those who infect your life.
You know something, this hit me real hard just now, only because a lot of time we talk about pouring, right? Pouring and pouring and pouring from a cup, but a lot of times we don't realize if these people are as impactful as they should be, then they're pouring back. They're pouring right back.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the phrase, I'm possible.
Yes.
Who gave you this name, which is now a mantra, an institution, a guideline? Who started that for you?
Well, I have to give a shout out to youth across the country, especially young people in the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia that I worked with so many years ago for many years. And those are the individuals I have to give credit to. Yeah. I have to give credit to them because as they spoke to me saying, Uncle Keith, because they call me Uncle Keith. They call me Uncle Keith. Listen, Uncle Keith, I appreciate it. When I come around you, it feels possible. You make me feel like I can do anything. You make me feel it's possible. And man, I started thinking about that thing. And God gave me Mr. I'm Possible. And it really comes from a very small principle, but it had global large impact. You see, if you look at the word in your mind right now, impossible, and it's a little thing called an apostrophe. And if you take that apostrophe and you put it between the I and the M, then impossible becomes I'm possible. And since God had planted the gift of giving people the I'm possibilities inside of me, then why not go from saying it's I'm possible and not being Mr. I'm possible. And so now I was able to take ownership of not only the phrase, right? I'm possible or not impossible. I'm possible is the entire phrase that I created. Not impossible, I'm possible. But then to create that ownership.
Yes.
To place that on the inside of me. Because there's so many negative titles that we place on ourselves. There's so many negative labels that we place on ourselves. So why not be Mr. I'm possible so that every individual I come in contact with, when they leave me, they feel as if they can reach their goals and their dreams and their destiny and their purpose. So I want to thank the young people across the world, specifically in the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia, for inspiring and empowering me to go from impossible to it's possible to I'm possible to Mr. I'm possible.
Oh my God. And this phrase, this saying has now not only become a book, but a guideline, an institution for, shall I say, youth, to guide them. So let's talk about the inspiration behind wanting to further this, right? You mentioned that the youth across the world kind of gravitated toward this, and they basically gave you this name. So how do you keep showing up to inspire the young people?
Well, first of all, I'm relevant. You got to be relevant. And when I say relevant, that means that you have to meet young people where they are. Yeah. You have to come in with enthusiasm. Listen, I always let them know I might be in my 50s, but I'm still lit. I'm still turned up. You know, hey, nephew, I can still connect. I can still connect with young people of all ages, young people across the world all racial demographics. So it's power in connection. And when you connect with young people, not only does it keep you vibrant and energized and young, right, in a very positive way, because let me be very clear. When I say that I relate to young people and I connect, they still respect me. You see, I don't need to be a teenager again. I just need to connect to teenagers. I don't need to be a millennial again. I just need to connect to millennials. And so whether it's Generation Z or millennials or young people, I'm able to connect because I come in with that enthusiasm and I show up as myself. You got to be authentic. See, we have to show up as ourselves. I'm not trying to be them. I'm just connecting to them. And so now there's the respect factor that's there, okay? Because they see the authenticity. They understand that it's Uncle Keith. It's not Keith, it's Uncle Keith, right? And so when that happens, then I'm able to nurture them and love them more. And at the end of the day, I just believe young people don't care who is loving on them, who's nurturing them. If you're doing that, then they will be in tune with you. And so that's very important. And you also mentioned something, Courtney, when you said the Institute. It's an institution. Yes, the I'm Possible Institute, where I coach and train others who desire to be speakers and effective communicators and coaches. And so at the I'm Possible Institute, we help individuals expand their impact, their influence, and their income. Did you hear what I said? It's the 3 I's at the I'm Possible Institute, where I coach and train with the same enthusiasm that I have on this virtual platform today. We help individuals to increase and expand their impact, their influence, and their income, because impact and influence will drive income. Let me say that again. Impact and influence will drive income, as you well know.
Come on. So what do you see when you go into a lot of these school systems? What is lacking? What conversations are not happening, especially when it comes to us? And what can we do better to help those who are in that system right now?
I love that. I love that. One of the things that we can certainly do, and I want to shift just for a moment to one population, and I'm talking about the fathers.
Yes.
I want to say that because we have a global brand, a global program called Fathers, Not Father. FATHERS, not FARTHER. And so now we're coaching and training fathers to come to the schools, not just show up for Friday football, okay? Because if you can show up for Friday night lights and you can pack the football stadiums, you should be able to show up on a Wednesday night and pack the PTA meeting. And so I'm very intentional about mobilizing dads to show up, because you understand and I understand when a man of purpose shows up, the atmosphere changes.
That's right.
And so I'm calling on fathers in general, okay, but Black fathers in particular, right? Let me say that again. Fathers in general, but Black fathers in particular, where our children are the most marginalized, minimized, oppressed, suppressed, repressed, and depressed. I'm calling on fathers to show up. I'm calling on fathers to show up in the classroom, show up in the hall, help with the discipline, help with the disruptive behavior, because when fathers show up and now we have schools that are in order, then teachers can teach more effectively. They're doing a great job, but then they can teach more effectively. But it's going to take more fathers to show up in a matriarchal profession. I'm a former educator, and I know that if you have 50 teachers in a building, 45 of them might be women. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing, because I salute women, my wife, my mom, others, educators, leaders. So I salute women who are educators and empowering, but we do need more men to stand up. And if you're not in the education field as a professional, at least show up as a father, at least show up as a volunteer, at least show up like we show up for everything else that we want to do. Right. So I believe if men of purpose would show up, then I believe there would be less discipline problems in the school. I believe that you will see the morale go up, because so many young Black males will now see men of purpose who are present. And let me say this, when it comes to being present, your presence is a present in the present, and that makes you a gift. Let me say that again to all of your listeners. Your presence is a present in the present, and that makes you a gift. So when you show up with purpose, you are a gift. So that's one of the things we can do in this, as it relates to the school system, and bettering the school system for Black children and children of color. And the other thing is we can do our research. Yes. We can do our research, right? Yes, we can do our research and go after those resources, especially those free resources that are free. There are so many resources, free resources for our parents, but a lot of times the parents won't show up. Like I said, unless it's a sporting event, or it's a talent show, or, or it's one of those spring flings where, you have a lot of fun. But we have to show up for our children's education. We have to show up for their future. That's how we build legacy. And that's how we will go from impossible to impossible on the educational level. And then we need to, at the end of the day, let me say this. We just need more teachers who care. That's another thing. More teachers who care, more Black teachers who care. Right? Yeah. We do need that. We need more Black teachers to take it personal. When I was in the classroom teaching Black babies, you got to take it personal. You have to treat them like it's your own child, your own niece, your own nephew. So I think if we just do that with a collective, and can I just throw this out? I need the Black church to show up more in schools too. Okay. All right. I need the Black church to show up more in schools because, as a man of faith, as a man who's Christ-like, I've heard all of my life. Study to show yourself approved. I've heard that all of my life. Well, that just doesn't extend to the Bible, right? That extends to studying to show yourself approved in life. And so I'm calling on the faith-based community, okay, to leave out of those four walls and go into the schools where ministry matters in our public school systems today, especially with our beautiful Black children. And I believe if we do those things and we vote, let me say that again, we vote to have individuals in place, whether it's the school board, okay, whether it's the county commissioner, all right, the city council person, we vote on the local level to make sure that those who are leading in education are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And so I believe if we do that as a collective, we will see an improvement in our public schools today. And that will improve Black children, Black families, Black legacy.
Come on. And that equates to evangelization, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. Evangelization. Now, you mentioned something about resources, and I wanted to shift in this conversation because you brought me here. I wasn't going to bring it up, but you brought me here. So we are in a time right now where authority figures are taking away or trying to alter those resources because they don't want the reality of what was to be talked about anymore.
Yes.
So now we're talking about education in the schools. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about voting. We're talking about accountability. How do we then hold those same people accountable for what they're doing in a time such as this?
Let me get very specific. Let me get very specific with an example that we should all have heard of, and we haven't. We need to pay close attention to the likes of the governor in Florida, whose name I don't want to call. Okay. I don't even want to spew his name on the tip of my tongue on such a positive platform because I believe he has such a negative agenda.
Right.
The other day, this individual actually talked about the fact that slavery had its benefits because those who were enslaved, I don't want to say the slaves, but enslaved because they were forced. Those who were enslaved, there were some benefits because they learned valuable skills. How ludicrous is that? Not only that, now, along with the Florida Department of Education, they are now planning to place these types of curriculums in the schools for Black and children of color to learn this idiotic garbage, this slander, okay, this miseducation.
Right.
And the only way that we can stop it, once again, is we got to protest in the polls. We march for everything else, but we got to march to the polls, nephew. We got to march to the polls and get these people removed. Not only that, this same individual, this same governor is running for president. Can you imagine that? So he wants to take a statewide negative agenda and now spread it throughout our nation. We have to stand up. We're going to have to vote. We're going to have to be more conscious of what's going on. We're going to do that. Not only that, we're talking about misappropriation of funds, where a lot of times in our public schools, a lot of times, especially public schools that are heavily populated by Black children, as you know this, a lot of the resources are not there. A lot of the money is not there. A lot of the funding is not there. And so now, one of the things I say, I believe that every Black child can excel if they have two things: access and exposure. Let me say that again. Access and exposure. You know how important access is, because access and exposure will now open your mind to the impossibilities.
Come on.
But a lot of times in our poorer Black school districts, guess what? We don't have access. We don't have exposure. So now our children are limited. Guess what? Who controls the budget? The politicians.
Right.
Who controls the budgets? The school boards. And all of them are elected. And as a political consultant, I can say to all of your listeners, it's so important. It's so important that we vote, that first of all, we register and we vote on behalf of our children. That's how we can show how much we love them. You got, in the coming weeks, you're going to have parents spending money they don't have, buying things they don't need to impress people who don't care about their children.
Come on.
They're going to be buying $200 sneakers, but say they can't afford a $50 book. They're going to buy a $1,000 wardrobe, but can't afford a $400 laptop. See, so they're going to be going to Rent-A-Center and other things, right? Getting all of these items, but not focusing on that mindset. So we can do something as parents. We can do something in the community as well. But I will say this to the top of the hill on One-on-One, the premier talk show. All right, the premier talk show for motivation, education, information, and elevation. Yes, the premier talk show, One-on-One. I can say this without a shadow of a doubt, that we're going to have to be more active in the political process, and we're going to have to go to school board meetings. We're going to have to pay attention. And those who have the agenda to destroy our communities and our children, whether it's after 2 years or 4 years, we're going to have to vote them out.
Yeah, that is so true, because their time is up.
Oh, yeah, listen, say that again. Their time is up, absolutely.
Yes. So let's talk about leadership. You know, I was reading somewhere where you could pick out qualities and traits in someone who would be a leader. So what are those qualities? What are those traits? And what are the biggest character traits that people can work on if they are, or if they want to become a leader?
I love that. The first thing I would say, it starts with integrity. It starts with integrity.
That's the base.
Listen, that's the foundation. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have integrity, you're not going to make decisions that benefit everyone. 90% of your decisions will benefit you, and the other 10% that benefit everyone will also be a result of benefiting you. Because you made that decision. And so, number one, I would say, if you are seeking to be a sincere servant leader, and I want to focus there because I believe in servant leadership. If you're seeking to be a strong servant leader, a diligent servant leader who wants to expand others as well as yourself, you have to have integrity. That's number one. If you're looking for someone to be your leader, that person needs to have integrity. That's number one. Number two, that person needs to be a facilitator and a motivator and not a dictator.
Come on.
That person needs to be a facilitator, a motivator, and not a dictator. Okay, let me say that. I talk about dictator people all the time. They need to be a facilitator, a motivator, not a dictator, because then that person is going to micromanage you and always try to control you. All right. And that's the type of leadership that breeds a culture of fear. And you don't want to work for anybody that you fear. You don't want to work in any environment that you fear. Okay. You don't want to go to any faith-based institution where the pastor, okay, or the rabbi or the imam is a dictator. That's number one. Okay. You don't want to just be around commentators because all they do is talk, but they get nothing done. You don't want to be around spectators because they will stand on the sidelines and watch you work, and they will stand there and do nothing. You don't want to be around hesitators who are leaders because they're going to always procrastinate. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. You want to be around those individuals who have integrity. They're motivators. They're facilitators. And watch this. Watch this. they have the humility to take your advice sometimes. You want leaders, and you want to be a leader that others can be in your ear and that they can sharpen you, just like the pencil. They can sharpen you, because at the end of the day, Courtney, if you're not willing to be sharpened like the pencil, if you're not willing to be sharpened, nobody will ever get your point.
Come on.
If
you know what never, I love what I love about all of this is it's not just talk, right? A lot of times people can speak about a lot of things and it sounds good, but there's no action behind what they're saying. It's all fluff. It's all fluff.
Yes.
You, my man, you are the truth. And not only have you been speaking about these things and putting them into play, you wrote them in a book. And that's what I call true legacy, to be able to leave something behind that people can remember. Now, you wrote a book, and I ordered it only because it spoke to me. Talk is expensive.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
First of all, I was like, wait, there was no way that I wasn't going to order this book. I had to. So I'm waiting for it to come, but I ordered the book, and you also co-authored Conversations on Success. And this is a big one for me, because I feel like as Black men, not many of us are having these type of conversations. Let's talk about the book and what inspired them.
Listen, I want to start with talk is expensive, because all of my life I've heard talk is cheap. And I know the basis of that is people saying, if you talk, but there's no action, then talk is just cheap. All of my life I've heard actions speak louder than words, and actions do speak louder than words, but it's the words that move people to action. Let me say that again. Action may speak louder than words, but it's the words that move people to action. So a lot of times when people speak life into Courtney, then Courtney grows up. He overcomes the kidney failure. Yes. Okay? He overcomes the loss of his mom to be raised by his beautiful grandmother while still keeping the memory of his beautiful mother alive. When Courtney was about to get the kidney transplant, he was removed because he had heart issues, okay? And so Courtney kept going and being resilient, because God spoken to him, others spoken to him, he's spoken to himself. And that's not cheap. That's expensive, because it has made him significant in a global brand today. And so we have to be very, very clear. And I'm intentional about telling people talk is not cheap. When you speak life into someone, it can raise the standard and raise them to their God-given purpose. And when you speak negative into them, it can shrink them to the point that it's almost as if they're not even on the planet. And so talk is not cheap. Talk is expensive. For when you learn how to communicate effectively, once again, it will help expand your impact, your influence, and your income. So I'm very clear and intentional about that. Also, I'm very clear and intentional in the book talking about the fact that in families in general, and the Black family in particular, we always hear blood is thicker than water. Blood is thicker than water. Yes, blood is thicker than water, but sometimes blood clots, but water flows. Let me say that again. Blood is thicker than water, but sometimes blood clots and water flows. So guess what? Today, my conversation with Courtney is so powerful that this conversation, and Courtney is not my blood, he is the water, but he's helping me to flow. So just being with you today can be the jump start and the catalyst for me having more empowerment in my life. Then you got some family members who are supposed to be your blood, but they're your blood clots, because they're hating on you and they're not loving you and they're not supporting you and they're reminding you of everything you used to be instead of edifying you for what God has made you now. So it all goes back to the talk. It all goes back to the talk. All relatives ain't family. And I would say this, in all of our families, you can trace the first negative statements, they were probably given to you by family members. And you can also trace the first statements of love. They were also given by family members. And so in the book, I talk about the fact that talk is so powerful. And whether it's personal growth or professional growth, it can then determine how you live the rest of your life and the impact you have here on earth. So talk has never been cheap. It has always been expensive, and it still is today.
Oh my God. It is so true. It is so true. The foundation of the action starts with words.
Absolutely.
Because you can't do it unless you say it.
Yes.
Oh, man. You can't be it unless you say it.
Come on now. And listen, and Courtney, that's so real. And that's why, if you don't mind me shifting for a moment.
Yeah, sure.
That's why I created this global brand right here. Don't lease your peace.
Come on.
Right there.
Come on.
Right
I need to
there,
get this shirt.
because a lot of talk leads to the mental health issues that we have. And so I say, don't lease your peace. And the clear word in here is lease. When you lease something, you give it away for a period of time.
Right.
You give it away for a certain period of time. Nobody comes to take your peace. Nobody robs you of your peace. You're actually leasing it. You're giving your peace away. I want to say to all of your leading listeners out there, stop giving away your peace to others who don't deserve it. You have to be intentional about protecting your peace of mind and spirit. Stop hanging around negative people. Stop letting the negative people control your life. I'm going to say this. This is a challenge. I guarantee you, right here on that one-on-one listening audience, if you would delete 10 to 15 people from your cell phone, it would increase your peace of mind and your peace of spirit. Stop giving away your peace. Stop giving away your peace of mind. Stop giving it away. Stop leasing it, thinking that when it comes back to you, it's going to come back whole, because it is not. So what are you saying? Stay away from negative people. Stay away from negative people. Stop letting the people, listen, stay away from negative people. Never let anyone's negative opinion of you become your reality. And as my good friend Les Brown says, never let anyone tell you what you can't do, especially if they've never done it. So, Courtney, we got to start hanging around those individuals that build us up.
Yeah.
And the problem is this. A lot of times these people are so close to us, we feel guilty when we don't hang around them as much. No, you should feel guilty when you sacrifice your own peace of mind and spirit. So let that be a message today for your mental health growth, your mental wellness. Don't lease your peace. And I guarantee you, your mental health will be better. Your spirit will be better. Your heart will be better. And if those things are better, your mind will be better. And the more you're in tune with your mind, your spirit, and your mental wellness, guess what? You can create. You can create all of that you wanted to create. You will see projects come to life. You will get promotions that you never thought you could imagine getting, but you have to be aligned mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
Yes. And even when it's uncomfortable, a lot of times the people you're leasing your peace to are the ones that are in your circle who you think are your forever friends or your forever family. And when you get this peace back, it got holes in it. It's punched, it been punched, it been kicked, it been battered, it's been broken, it's been bruised. And then you want this peace back, and all it is a shambles of what you once had. Oh man. I love that. I need to get this shirt. Don't lease your peace. So my last question would be, who do you think, right? You know, we can't do these things by ourselves. And I always say this with my team, in my family, with my close friends. No matter where you are in your life, someone had to be a catalyst to help get you to where you are. God is always number one, but there had to be someone that God ordained to come into your life and help guide you to where you are right now. And for you, my question would be, who do you think for allowing you to get to this place right here where you are right now? And what would you say to that person?
Well, listen, you know, the more common answer would be a parent, right? Your mom, grandma, dad, you know, and guess what? I had beautiful family members, and my mom, the first thing I'll say is this: my mom made sure I was exposed to the fine arts, right? She made sure I was exposed to those things that that built up my gift, that enhanced my gift, that nurtured my gift. And my mom is 79 and battling Alzheimer's right now. And I'm just thankful, even though my mom doesn't know me, right? I call her my new mom because I'm getting to know my new mom who was diagnosed, roughly 9 years ago. So I'm thankful that she's still here. Praise God for that. Yes. But I do want to, in addition to my mom and family members, there are three strong Black men: Whitfield Sims Jr., Dr. Gerald Dees, Dr. Robert L. Stevenson. Whitfield Sims Jr., the late, great Whitfield Sims Jr., was my theater director in Jamaica, New York, St. Albans, Queens, for the Black Spectrum Theater. You know about Black Spectrum. Black Spectrum Theater? Yes. Yeah, the Negro Ensemble. Come on now. So we had those soul ties with Black Spectrum Theater and others. And he was my theater director, and he became a father figure as well. And he made me love the fine arts more than anybody ever did in my life. And so that served as a catalyst for me being where I am now. Dr. Gerald Dees, man, I was on WLIB back in New York in the day, man.
Come on.
Yeah. Dr. Gerald Dees, world famous physician, man, Hollis, New York. So when I was running flyers for Run DMC, here I am with Dr. Gerald Dees, and he made me the leader of an organization, a youth advocacy organization called The Power of One. Talking about being one-on-one with you, we had The Power of One, where, man, at 13 and 14, we were out picketing stores that wouldn't hire Black youth. So he was an activist and advocate, talking about the power of one. He nurtured my gift on the radio. And then Dr. R.L. Stevenson was my theater director at the Savannah State University, HBCU Love. And man, he nurtured my gift of theater, my gift of speaking, and even more. So those three men, okay, the late, great Whitfield Sims Jr., Dr. Gerald Dees, and Dr. Stevenson, three Black men in three different time periods in my life who poured into me. And I say that because as a Black man, it is my responsibility to pour into others. And so that's very important, that those three Black men took the time to love me, to nurture me, to support me, and showed me what a Black king looks like even outside of my family. And so, yes, the popular answer is always, mom, but those three Black men changed my life. And today, Courtney, when I'm in school districts across the world, I use a term for discipline and for order. I say 17. 17. Guess what? I say that today, 40 some years later, after learning it from Whitfield Sims Jr. Back in the early 80s, nearly 40 years ago. So I want you to know that's the power of the impact that we can have on young people's lives, that we pour into them and they remember, and then they begin to use it in their own lives. And that keeps the cycle of each one reach one going.
Come on. Uncle Keith, man. Talking about pouring. You poured into me today, brother. Poured. Yes. And I am thankful. I am honored. I am blessed. What can we do? How can my community, how can we support you and stay in touch?
Absolutely. Social media platforms on Instagram, specifically, Keith L. Brown _. That's KEITH L. Brown _ on Facebook, Keith L. Brown 1911. Shout out to Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I just got to shout out my frat brothers one time. So shout out Facebook, Keith L. Brown 1911, or Keith L. Brown Mr. I'm Possible. That's the business page. And then if you want me to come by and empower your school, your college, university, your corporate setting, your faith-based institution, send an email to Adrian, my publicist, Adrian Allen, Adrian at the IPYagency.com. That's Adrian, ADRIENNE at the IPYagency.com. And then, nephew, my website is KeithLBrown.com. Listen, I'm not hard to find. You can look me up. You can bring me. You can book me. And I guarantee you will be motivated. You will be elevated. You will be educated. And you will have graduated.
And you heard it here, y'all. Heard it here. So please make sure you go out, you support, you get the books, you get the education. Book this man. Book him today. I'm telling you right now, book him today. Just because I said so. Now, please make sure you are heading over and you are following my Uncle Keith. I'm going to call him my uncle, y'all. You are following Uncle Keith. Make sure you're supporting him. Get the shirt. Don't lease your peace. I thank everybody for being here. Uncle Keith, especially you, for lightening up my day, for making it even better. And everybody, I thank you for watching. I love you. And I'll see you on another episode of One on One with Courtney Starks. Have a good one.